They were called out for a possible broken arm. At dusk, which is when the enemy really likes to prowl, we are flying over there, and aircraft commander said, I see tracers up front. And I'm sitting with my medic. We were sitting back to the pilot seats in what we called the hellhole. I said, we're at same heading, suicide level, and suicide airspeed. We're 800 feet up. We're about to have something pretty exciting happen here. It opened up 3 positions in front of us. Tracers were everywhere. I leaned over, looked out the window, and it looked like that thing was hitting me right in the eyeball.
Curious Humanography is proud to partner with Utah Honor Flight, part of the National Honor Flight Network, giving veterans the trip of a lifetime to Washington, D.C. to visit memorials built in their honor. Each flight is free for veterans and made possible by generous donors. To learn more or support their mission, visit utahhonorflight.org and find your local Honor Flight hub at www.honorflight.org. Also, if you'd like to see more stories like this, please support us by subscribing to our channel, liking, commenting on the video, and sharing it with your friends. Your support helps us continue to bring stories that deserve to be heard. Thank you for watching, and now back to our show.
I'm Kerry Cunningham from Arkansas originally, and I was born and raised west of Little Rock, and lived there until I was 18. Then I worked in Texas for International Aerial Mapping, which was a aerial surveying company, and I worked there until I got a draft notice. And when I passed my physical, then I thought, well, I'm going to sign up for an extra year just to be sure I get to be out of the infantry. So,
How old were you?
I was 19.
19. And what year was that?
67. No, 68. I'm sorry.
Okay.
68. And so I went in. After that, I went. They signed me up to go in January the 15th of 68. So that's when I was inducted into the Army.
And where did you go to boot camp?
At Fort Bliss, Texas.
Describe that.
It was different. It was in the winter. Got there, on the 16th, I think, of January, and it was colder than I expected, and Fort Bliss is right in town of El Paso, and to go to the rifle range, we had to get in these buses, cattle cars, really. It was literally a cattle car on a truck, and have to go to White Sands, New Mexico to a rifle range. And that's also where we had to bivouac in about 2 inches of snow. So it was interesting. Had a really good drill sergeant from Oklahoma, tough, big man, had his Golden Glove boxing champion at Fort Bliss in 67.
Well, do you remember his name?
No. Last name was Jones, but that's all we ever knew.
Did you like him then?
Yeah. He told us, I think there was 60 of us got off the buses there, and he said, I'm going to know every one of you by your name before you get out of basic training. And he did.
Wow.
Yeah. And I don't remember anyone else except him and one guy from Arkansas.
Okay, and how you enjoy boot camp?
Oh, no. It was push Texas, as they say, and dying cockroach all the time, and a lot of harassment, see what happens see if you can deal with it. And I think in 2 weeks, I called my mother and said, Mom, can you get me out of this? She said, no, you're in the Army, son. Okay, then I might as well stay here. So so we stayed. But during that time in basic is when the USS Pueblo in Korea was captured. And everyone thought we would be going back to war in Korea. And my drill sergeant, Jones, was a artillery MOS, as we call it, and that was his specialty. So he was going to be going back there. So I had a backup drill sergeant for 2 weeks, and we were rushed through so fast. We actually got done with all of our training in 7 weeks. So the last week we're just cleaning our weapon over and over and over until it's time to leave.
And where did you go after boot camp?
I was supposed to go to Fort Rucker, but for some reason they changed it to Fort Eustis, Virginia for aircraft mechanic school. So I went there. As luck would have it, that's when I'm trying to think who got assassinated.
Oh, was it RFK?
No, Luther.
Oh, Martin Luther King.
Martin Luther King was assassinated. So they thought we were going to be going to D.C. for protection. So we went through about a week of what they call crowd control training, which got us off our schedule a little bit, but nothing happened. We never did go.
Was that a little trippy, thinking you were going to be?
Yeah, I didn't want no part of that. I want to finish the aircraft school. I didn't want to get out there with a baton and start marching into a bunch of people that were irritated. So, but the class right ahead of us had to go, but that's when they stopped sending anyone. So our class never went.
How was the aircraft mechanic school? What was that like?
It was good. I really got into it. I enjoyed it, and mainly because I really wanted to learn how and not mess up. And so when we finished, which was in April, it was strange. They called us all out, said, okay, if you're in the top 8 in the class, you can go to Fort Lewis, Washington, and train to be a mechanic on a Cobra helicopter. And in 3 weeks of training, and you will be an E5. And I turned it down because as a crew chief, you can't fly. It's just 2 pilots, And so I wanted to stay with the Hueys, so I turned it down. And that way it took me 2 years to make E5 instead of 3 weeks. But then they just said, okay, A through H, you guys, if your last name starts with A through H, Vietnam. I through so-and-so, Germany. It was like, oh, man, luck of the draw, So straight to Vietnam.
They trained you on the Hueys, specifically the UH-1, or would they change you on all the copters?
Mostly UH-1 because there were so many of them needed and used. I mean, they were everywhere. You wouldn't believe it. Skies would be black with helicopters.
Tell me about that, working on them. Tell me about the UH-1. What makes it special, or did you like it?
Well, they started with the H-1D model, which had a smaller engine. And when they came out with the H model, which we needed in DustOff in MedEvac to have that extra power, 1,300 shaft horsepower, I think it was, and T53 Lycoming engine. And so they were powerful, and you could carry approximately 8-9 people in there, depending on how they were set up. But for MedEvac, which is where I ended up, we were set up so we had litter poles that you could hang a litter, like 3 litters. You could stack patients. You could put one on the floor. If they were able to just sit in a back seat, you could put them there. But once we loaded the patients, I would just help the medic if he needed help in taking care of them. until we got them to the aid station or a hospital.
Okay, how did you end up in DustOff? You didn't know that? You didn't know that while you were
I had
over
no idea. And when I first got there, we were in a...
When you say first got to Vietnam?
First got to Vietnam.
Back up. Tell me that story when you get to Vietnam. How did you get over there?
Okay. How I got to Vietnam?
Mm-hmm.
We flew to Hawaii and then to Tokyo, then to Guam, and then to Vietnam.
Were you on a commercial airline?
Yes.
Yeah.
Flying Tiger.
How was that weird, being on a commercial airline going to war?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't think anything about it. I just assumed everybody must be doing that. If you were not in the Navy or Marines, you might be going on a ship. But I didn't know, that's just the way it happened. We landed, and they have like a holding station until somebody decides which unit you're going to go to. So my first day in Vietnam, my job was burning human waste because they pulled the pots out from under and you had to put diesel, set on fire, and you had to stir it. Smell like, you never forget that one either. Thank goodness the next day, a DustOff helicopter showed up and guy said, "Go get on that. That's where you're going."
That was how that
was it. They say everybody volunteers for DustOff. But I know a whole lot of people that would say, "I don't remember volunteering." But you did have to volunteer to fly, as a crew chief and a medic. You had to volunteer to fly.
And you like being on a helicopter?
Yes. And I was there about 2 weeks and as a mechanic, and the flight platoon sergeant came down and said, "Hey, Cunningham, you want to be a crew chief?" I said, "Yes." "Well, let's go." I said, "Well, I have to finish this fuel filter on the engine." "No, let's go." I said, "Chuck," that was his name, Chuck Weldon. He said, "Come on." I said, "No, they won't know what, I can't leave an engine and, like this, somebody might miss it." And so he let me finish the fuel filters, and that was it. Went and got a helmet and an AR-15 and flight suit and stuff, and that was it. He kind of went over how to do the daily inspection and little bit about what to expect, but not very much,
Describe that. What is a crew chief?
My job, you're assigned to one helicopter, and your job is to take care of that helicopter. You're out in the field, so if you have to make sure everything's ready to fly. So you pull a daily inspection, you climb all over that thing, make sure everything is correct and ready to fly. And then, like, you're sitting in a little place where the crew stays, whether you're in the field or in base, and you're like on hot seat, and when they call for they'll say first up or second up or whatever, and the pilots are getting their maps and the instructions, and the medic's getting his stuff on board, and the crew chief is untying the the master rotor and main rotor, and because it's always tied down so the wind don't whip it, and uncovering the air intake, have a little cover on it, keep the dust and the birds out or whatever, and you get on board. You get ready when the aircraft commander gets in the seat in front of you. You help him get in, get his stuff on, slide the armor plate on the seat forward, which is on his left side to protect him. And then I get in the back and, I get the fire extinguisher ready first, and he starts cranking up, and I just look through the engine compartment to make sure no fire, and then jump on board and away we go.
How long What was the normal distance? Was there kind of an average of where you flew, or could it be really extended? Or
No, it was usually fairly close. There were landing zones everywhere. There were base camps, a lot of base camps spread around, and dust-off aircraft were spread around. There were several detachments of the 498th Medical Company that I was in, and so they would branch off, but typically we tried to stay within about 15 minutes flying time from possible action, which the pilots would be briefed as to where, say, the first cav was going to have an operation the next morning. So they would kind of know where we were going. But you could be going there and somebody else call, and you might have to divert and see who's needed first, But typically we just go in, load the patient, and take them back to an aid station. Sometimes, if they were bad enough, then we just automatically headed right on down to Quin Yon, to the hospital.
Your first mission, you remember that?
If I remember right, the first mission was in the Phuket Mountains, I was still at home at our base company at Lane Army Airfield. And it's only about 15-minute flying time to Phuket Air Force Base, which is very close to the Phuket Mountains. And that's where the enemy would try to get their artillery and stuff, rockets, whatever, to that area, because they would love to hit those Air Force jets, the fighter jets sitting down there. So the Tiger Division of the Korean Army, the ROK soldiers, who were excellent soldiers, and one guy had got a piece of shrapnel across the stomach. And so we were called in. We had our interpreter, Thomas Fagan, would talk to the ground unit and tell the pilot where we needed to go and everything. And we got in, and it was just rocky mountain, very rocky, very steep. And all you could do was either hover or use a hoist, depending on where they were. And I think the first one we just were able to load. I think we just loaded him on. And we get on there, and my medic, who had been there a couple of tours already, he's pretty hardcore. So he's like, "Do you ever see a guy's insides?" No, and I don't want to, but but that was my first mission. And he lived. Yeah. So.
Okay, so how often would you go out in a day? Tell me, just kind of describe a day-to-day normally.
Well, if you were at the home base, it was always first up, second up, third up. Sometimes those guys are just loading blood to take to the aid stations, spread it out so they had it. And sometimes it depends. If you're first up, you're probably going to go to the first wounded person in that area. Now, if you're out in the field, which there's a lot of LZs, Anke, Pleiku, were not LZs, these were bases. And we rotated through all of these sites approximately every 11 or 12 days. You get 100 hours on the aircraft. You have to go back and have it serviced, for oil changes stuff if there was nothing else a problem.
Right. You enjoy it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I did. It became like second nature. I mean, you get that call, you just go, Everybody knew exactly what they had to do, and we would be on the aircraft and in the air, and sometimes in 5 minutes.
Wow.
And just a lot because sometimes the pilots even have to get coordinates and stuff actually in air, and the co-pilot would handle the maps and the radios and speak to the guys on the ground where the injured were. Aircraft commander just basically flew us and got us in and out of those places.
Describe everybody's job on the helicopter. And tell me how many people are on there usually.
There's just 4. There's the aircraft commander, and there's the co-pilot that's really still just learning the area and the tactics that DustOff used and get them used to what to expect, And the medic had just basically a little gym bag. They didn't have very much equipment in them. The helicopters didn't have GPS or night vision or anything, so the co-pilot would have to, if it's daytime, he'd just read the map and give directions. And if it's nighttime, sometimes they hold a little flashlight, red flashlight in their mouth and look at the maps and tell them how we're going to go. And, some missions were easy. Some were difficult, cloud cover. Monsoon season was always a challenge with the rain and the wind. And, of course, my helicopter happened to have a hoist on it. So
not everybody did.
No. There was usually one helicopter out of every 6, I think. One in each platoon, I think, had a hoist. And that's because we were in the Central Highlands, triple-canopy jungle in places. And sometimes there's just no landing. Sometimes they would get the patient out to a place you could land, and it might be where a bomb had hit. It might be a bomb crater. And so you could land and we could get them on board. But if there was nothing like that around, they're up in rough jungle, then we had to drop a jungle penetrator, which was about 3 foot long and fairly heavy. It had little fold-up legs, 3 of them, that you could put 3 ARVN soldiers on it. You're not going to put 3 Koreans on it or 3 heavy Americans because the helicopter would creep. Too much weight when you start pulling them up. And the medic controlled the hoist at all times.
So the medic didn't go down with the hoist usually?
No, he just dropped it down. We had a remote control to drop it down. And they would load the patients, had a little belt on each one that kind of like a safety belt, keep them falling off. And then he'd pull them up. And I am watching for enemy fire around, or sometimes keeping the tail rotor out of a tree.
You're signaling, you're talking to the pilot then.
Well, yes. Go forward.
Don't hit this tree.
Don't go backwards, and because you hit the tail rotor, we're going to be right down on top of everybody, just no time to recover in that situation. And sometimes even when, not myself, but some of the medics, when they were pulling the guys up, they were too heavy and they start creeping, and the pilot tried to control it, but not enough control. Each aircraft that had a hoist had to have the cyclic rigged extra to the left. So that when you put that weight on, it wouldn't be normal. You could actually go a little further to the left to compensate
for it.
And there were cases where they actually dragged the guy through the tree limbs, just could not get stopped. And they did have a button that had a 12-gauge shotgun inside the main hoist that would, if the medic deemed it necessary, he could push a button and cut the cable.
Wow!
With the shotgun shell, and that otherwise it would crash the helicopter and you lose 4 more people.
Yeah. Tell me about what arms were being carried on the helicopter.
Typically, the pilots both had .38 pistols that they carried right in front of their private area, and rather than on the side, because you have a armor plating, and you've got radios that they're carrying, emergency, and the medic had a .38, and I had an AR-15 for mostly patient protection. Like if you went down with a patient, you got to protect that person first. And don't know if that ever happened to anyone, but, we lost most of the aircraft due to mechanical failures, and I wouldn't say pilot error, but, we're flying in fog, clouds, very bad weather, and sometimes you just misjudge there's a tree there.
Were you ever on a crash?
Only a hard landing.
Tell me about that.
We were close to the beach, or we were getting close to the beach, and the pilots got vertigo from the rotating beacon hitting the clouds, got very confused about where we were. And so I'm trying to help and see if I see anything. And we finally see the beach, but we still had a hard landing. The sand, we hit the sand, so it didn't cause any known damage. And we sat there a little bit, and everybody's fine, and up we go, But that aircraft did suffer a crack all the way across the bulkhead between the tail boom and the engine. So where that started, we don't know. The crew chief that took over that aircraft when I left, he's the one told me it had to be destroyed.
Wow.
Yeah.
How long would you keep the aircraft? Was it before they would swap it out as a crew chief?
It always depended. I had the same aircraft from day one.
Wow.
Aircraft 486 tail number. Never, I had good pilots, always. The aircraft commander was always. I didn't have a bad pilot in my experience. I flew a lot with, everybody's deceased except one guy, David Parhalo down in Florida. He was an officer and became a platoon leader, and I did fly with him once, but usually just different warrant officers, usually.
You said 2 weeks in, you're a good friend who's a crew chief on another helicopter got shot. Can you tell me that story?
Yeah. Ronnie Granville was flying, I think they were at 1,100 feet above the ground, and that's supposed to be a safe elevation for small arms. And I don't know about their airspeed or anything, but we wear back and front ceramic armor plating, but the sides are open. And Ronnie took a round through his left side, come out his neck, and he was killed instantly. And first guy I met there when I got to the 498, and talked to him several days till that happened. And so it didn't start off good.
How did that hit you? Was that?
Well, you develop this feeling instantly that you don't want anyone on your aircraft wounded or dead. But if it's got to happen to somebody else, you want it to happen to one of those three, not me, And they had the same feeling. You just think, it's not going to happen to me. You're 19 years old. What do we know? We're dumb and young and fearless. You don't know. So,
how often would you get shot at?
It varied. When some guys in some areas would get shot at quite often. If you were up north in July, which I wasn't, But I know a good friend of mine, Jerry Ewan, was up there, and it was a hot area. You were going to be in trouble a lot up there. I was at Pleiku, Anke, Duck Fo, LZ English. Spent a lot of time at a place called LZ Uplift.
Tell me that story. What is that?
We just had a tent over the top, and you've got your little bunk bed in there, and the sides have there were old rocket boxes that the gunships use, about 3.5 foot long, 4 foot long, and they fill them with sand, put them on the sides in case we take a round, from a mortar or something. Right. It's just mortar protection. Just like the revetments where we parked the aircraft, they were sandbags and barrels full of sand, and try to stop the blast, from damaging the aircraft.
Was that a really small base?
Oh yeah.
Like how many dust-offs were there?
One.
Just one?
Yeah.
Were you taking
one at a time? Yeah, one at a time. We rotated around different guys.
Like how long were you there?
I'd be there like 12 days. I seem to go back there a lot of 12 days.
Was it hairy there? I mean, were you taking shots and mortars a lot?
Well, we didn't get too many mortar rounds there. Like Duck Fo took more, and some areas took more, I guess. But not while I was there. But we were. I don't know who protected that little base. I don't know if it was First Cav or who really was the guys in the guard towers,
Was it the kind of thing you felt more secure in the helicopter than sitting at that base?
Sometimes, yes. Not always.
Not always.
Yeah. It was good until you left. Once you get away from there, then you got another thought in your head, but, carried my little Army-issued Bible in my pocket, my flat suit, every day. It's got the same hours I have, and I had a silk scarf like Snoopy wore that's got dust off on it, and I wore that silk scarf. It's got as many hours as I've got, 2 tours.
Was that kind of a good luck thing, you think? Or?
I don't know. I saw one and I thought, it'd be kind of cool, and it don't rub your neck. The flight suit doesn't rub your neck. So it was just something I did, I guess. And that, and as soon as while you're running to the aircraft, you're saying a prayer. Give me one more day.
Give me some stories. What are some memorable rescues?
One of the hoist missions, definitely remember, was it was night. Richard Gilpin was the aircraft commander, excellent pilot, and he would be in command, of course, in those situations, not the co-pilot. And it's very tricky when you're having to hover 60 to 100 more feet up. Someone said there was 300 feet on that cable. I don't really remember that much, but I never unloaded it either. But you have to sit very still. So my job would be to keep the tail rotor clear. And there were times when the aircraft commander would lower the helicopter and use the rotor blades like a lawnmower blade to lower us enough to get the penetrator down to where we needed it. And sometimes you come down slowly, of course, but the leading edge on the blade is hardened. The rest of it's just fairly thick aluminum, maybe 1/8 inch or so, 3/16.
Wow.
And inside's honeycomb aluminum. That's all that's in there. And so they're very easily damaged. They're very easily out of balance then. So you get a terrible vibration. And, but I remember stepping out on the skid that one night, and I remember telling Rich, I said, "Rich, move forward." He said, "I can't. The bubbles are chin bubbles against the tree."
Oh.
So that was it. We weren't going anywhere. So I said, "Just don't go backwards then." So we pulled him up, and it was a successful mission. I remember one time we went in, and I can't forget this one for some reason. Comes back at me, picked up a soldier that was shot through the stomach, and the field medics had him in some kind of a seat I was unfamiliar with, but he was in an upright position. We set the whole thing on the aircraft, and that made him throw up his breakfast. And he was crying and apologizing over and over. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." Man, hey, it's cool. Don't worry. I'll clean it up. You know, our job's get you to the hospital and save your life. Don't you even think like that, you know. But it hurt him, and then it hurt me that it bothered him. And I can't forget that flight for some reason, you know, that guy was that concerned with a bullet to his stomach. And then we had one where I had an extra crew chief on board. Don't remember why, but he was just sitting with his back to the pilot, to the aircraft commander, and facing me. But he could look out that way. The crew chiefs, you know, where we sat, you just look out the side. You don't know where you're going. You have no clue what it looks like in front of you. You just see where you've been, you know. So we're sitting there, and all of a sudden this guy and this other crew chief in Florida, he says, "Hey, we're on fire." And I look out, and man, there's smoke just bellowing out of that thing. Whew. Pilot calls Mayday, and we're getting back close to Phuket Air Base area. And down we go into a rice field, and I help get the aircraft commander out, and we all run, go out there about 50, 60 yards, and I'm going, "Oh my God, what if there's tripwires?" Hadn't even hit me until we got right there, and I didn't want to be on the ground at all. And I'm thinking, oh gosh, we could have been blown up, you know. And I look back at the helicopter, and it's just smoking. So I go back and I get there, a fire extinguisher out, and I walk around it, and the NICAD battery had shorted out. Don't know why, never happened again, but it shorted out, and that thing was smoking like crazy. I don't know if we could have made it back with that, or if it could have got hot enough to melt something in there. I don't know, but it's all aluminum housing. And so anyway, it was almost no time to allay Pedro from the Air Force Base. They had these 4-bladed Pedros that were designed to put out fires on a jet that landed. Their prop wash was supposed to put the fire back so that they could get out of the cockpit. What we found out was the Huey could blow it out faster than the Pedro. But this Pedro came, and he landed, or didn't land, but he just hovered over us. And then it was very, very quickly, we had a dust-off aircraft over us. And then, you know, we told them, the base unit back there, that we needed a battery. The battery was shorted out. They flew us out a battery and installed it, and up we went. But we were just sitting in a mud field. And another flight that was really bad didn't have anything to do with the war, because we would pick up, sometimes if a Vietnamese lady was having a baby in trouble, we would pick them up, just like any ambulance, if we didn't have to pick up someone, you know, an American or Korean soldier.
Right.
And so we've done that a time or two. I think one of the crews even maybe had to deliver a baby. It wasn't me. And but this one time, it was during the monsoons, really rainy. 2 buses hit head on, and they loved those buses. They might be 30 capacity. They'd have 60 on each bus. And there were people hurt everywhere. And we made, I believe, 3 trips hauling those people out. Another dust-off made 2 or 3 trips, and a regular slick unit came down, and they took a load or 2. There's that many people hurt. Some of them, there was no way they were going to survive.
Wow.
It was really, really bad. So you don't forget the really, really bad ones.
Yeah.
Man.
Tell me about, let's go back a little bit, the Koreans that were serving with you.
Yes.
Tell me about them.
They're very tough, very disciplined soldiers. Someone captured a document from a Viet Cong enemy, and it said, you had to, if they came in contact with, say, the South Vietnamese soldiers, take them on. If they run into American soldiers, make sure you outnumber them at least 5-1. If you run into the Korean unit, the ROK soldiers in the Tiger Division, make sure you've got over 10. You outnumber them by at least 10 people. They were just very tough. Had a little bit of different rules than we fought by.
Tell me the story of the leaflets they dropped for everybody.
The Korean compound was about 1.5 miles or so from our DustOff unit base, and I don't remember how far really, but wasn't too far over there. And their company commander was General Lee, which was a lot of Lees, obviously. But General Lee had his people fly these leaflets all around that base for a long ways and drop thousands and thousands of leaflets. And it said, if one round comes into the Korean compound or the dust-off's compound, we will burn and kill every man, woman, child, chicken, pig for a 25-mile radius. So that was a very secure base, very secure, because they just wouldn't mess with that.
And you told me, tell me this again, the people who worked on that base wouldn't know there was really a war.
If you had an aircraft, like there were way more mechanics, a lot of mechanics. I think there was 120 people in the unit. I can't remember, but there were a lot of the mechanics, and you've got avionics people and cooks and things. And if they didn't hear about one of our aircraft getting hit or somebody getting wounded, they wouldn't know it. And if the aircraft went in for a bullet hole, let's say, to be repaired, or maybe there's blood evidence in the aircraft, other than that, they wouldn't know there was a war going on, really.
What was that base called?
It was Lane Army Airfield.
Because it was just so secure.
Very secure. Very secure. The Koreans made sure. Now, all the units in there had guard towers, and the mechanics had to take their turns, rotation, and guard duty, in the towers. I was in it one time, and another reason I knew I wanted to fly, because you didn't have to do that. It was on flight crew. And it was boring. There was a time when the enemy hit a weapons depot closer to Quinyon. And the guys at nighttime, if they were outside, they could see the fire and hear the explosions going off because they hit artillery, they hit the fuel tanks, big fuel tanks, set them on fire. There would be drums, 55-gallon drums, as high as the helicopter was hovering around.
Oh my gosh!
And we were up, and we tried to stay out of. You don't want it up too close till it's over. Before you go in, try to get somebody. And then one mission, I don't remember exactly where we were, but they had I think it was a 20 or 30 aircraft flight out of Udon Air Base in Thailand that came over in B-52s to really hit an area hard. We were up hovering out of the way, of course, and they started dropping all these bombs, 250, 500-pound bombs, lots of them. And it looked like a mountain, all the debris. It would look like a mountain of dust and dirt grow right before your eyes for miles. And
how far away would you say you were?
We would probably be out 4 or 5 miles, I think. We were that far out. It's hard for me to know where I sat. But we could see it happening because we were just hovering around in circles. And then when it was over, and it started to settle, we would go down and we go down and look for wounded, and literally picked up an enemy soldier that had a weapon on his lap, and but his mind was just in such a state of shock. Just led him over to the helicopter.
Wow.
Those things are devastating. And then the USS New Jersey was close to that area, and they fired a round that weighed 2,900 pounds, and it would go 20 feet in the ground and then explode. So it actually had more Hoi Chans, which was the name of people that just give up, the enemy that give up. They were called Hoi Chan, and they would get more people just, hey, I'm quitting this army. I'm out of here.
Just from that weapon alone?
Yes, from that USS New Jersey. Yeah.
Wow.
Powerful weapon. Occasionally, I only landed on, I think it was the Repose hospital ship one time, but some of our pilots probably, depending on where they were, probably landed on the hospital ship several times.
Yeah.
And that was another tricky thing to do, because there's not a landing deck really, and you've got to basically hover up there so they can get them. And we had one guy, it wasn't me, I think it might have been one of our company commanders, Colonel Retzloff, maybe. The sailors tried to tie his skids to the rail. You don't want that. You don't want to be tied to that thing. You want to be able to
get
pull
off
collective and get out of there. But I guess that happened. So it was just always something different. Every time it was something different.
The medics. Tell me about the medics.
We had really good medics. Now, we had one that wasn't too good, not at cleaning his weapon, because he shot a friend of mine through the neck while he was cleaning his weapon and with a .45 caliber, and the guy survived it. And
I bet he wasn't real happy.
No, we never saw that medic again. And we called him Ski. His name's Al Helminski. He lives in Alaska. And he became a Michigan state trooper after he got out. And him and his wife were great friends. Good people, really good people. But that medic, we never saw him. But my main medic was Stephen Rounding, little short guy. Had done, I think, 2 tours when I got there, or was on his second one. And I don't know.
Always as a medic?
Always as a medic.
Wow.
He had started in the field in 101st Airborne as a medic. And then he didn't want to be on the ground anymore. He wanted to fly. So he came to DustOff. And I know he was 2 tours with DustOff. And I talked to him just before he passed away, and he had stayed in the Army this whole time. He was a career soldier, had even went back and worked with the Arvins, eating rice out in the field and, tough little guy, I don't know what all, but.
Was he the one you said the
Kerry.
pilot didn't want to go in? Tell me that story. Or was that a different? That
was actually our Korean interpreter, Tom Fagan. That the pilots didn't want to go in; it was too hot, and the pilot said, "I'm not going in there." This was again trying to rescue the Korean soldier in Tiger Division, which was the most decorated soldiers in the Vietnam War, and because they were brave, and they get you into some stuff, that they expect you to get them out of there. And our Korean interpreter was in the U.S. Army. He had been adopted by an Air Force lieutenant colonel, and Tom, he was very faithful for his Koreans. And the pilot said, "I'm backing out. It's too hot." The ground unit was even saying it was hot. And Tom pulled a gun on him and said, "No, you're going in there. You're going to get them out of there." And I don't think he got in trouble. I don't know. He may have got a chewing out, but he was still there when I was there. And but normally you would be in big trouble. But we needed him. And when he was on R&R, we would have another Korean that could speak some English, but not very good. And so we would have different interpreters, but mostly it was Tom Fagan.
How often were you picking up wounded enemy soldiers? And
all the time.
Really? And what was kind of that you just get the call, somebody's down here? And
yeah, whoever's wounded, you go get them. And sometimes the pilots would say, the ground people would say, "It's just too hot, back out, back out." And I don't know if you're familiar with the start of DustOff, but this Major Brady was the one that actually started DustOff in 1965, I think it was. And he went in and landed to load up some people, and it was just taking hits like crazy. And the ground people were saying, "It's too hot. Get out, get out, get out." And his statement was, "When I have your wounded." He's not leaving until everybody wounded's on board. Unfortunately, he sat there long enough that a sniper hit him, killed him instantly. And that caused him muscle memory to roll the aircraft and crash it and hurt other people. But that's how it started. And he became a general. He's still alive. His son, is still alive.
Wow.
His son's a General Brady.
So it was after that somebody said, "Hey, we should be rescuing people with helicopters." Is that what that means?
Well, it was already in the works, but it's hard to convince the Army to give up the Hueys.
Right.
For DustOff. They wanted to be able to use them for both troop carrying and everything. But DustOff proved that it was just too valuable.
Yeah.
They had to have them. So then we were able to get all of the latest models, which was the UH-1Hs, had more power. You could carry more wounded, and very good aircraft. Very good aircraft.
I'm assuming you learned a little medic stuff yourself from.
Not much.
Really?
Not much. You go through some training in basic, just very.
I guess I was just going to say on the job, because I'm assuming there were times when they need an extra hand. And
I would sometimes help the medic hold an arm or a leg or something while he's cutting some bandages to get on there, whatever he needed, check tourniquet, whatever he needed to do. But most of the time the medics they were good. Steve was very good. Yeah.
It sounds like they're incredible.
They're
medics.
incredible. And there was one flight at night when we were called. A bulldozer operator had chinooked a small bulldozer up on top of a peak where they were going to build a firing base, and they had sprayed the mountain with what we now know as Agent Orange. We knew what it was at the time. It just knocked the leaves off the trees, and they had apparently dropped a bomb for a place to set the helicopter down. Then he started working from there, making a good level fire base for this 105 artillery's guns. And he had got off too far on the edge. And when steel tracks get on heavy vegetation, they slip. And if they're wet, it really slips. And it had somehow turned over and ran over his hip. And he was way down there. So Steve and I had to get out with a litter and go down there and get him, load the patient, and bring him back up. And we got him out of there. It had run over his hip and legs, and I don't know if he survived or not, but Steve's still had him alive when we unloaded at the hospital. We took him straight to the hospital, Quignon. And that's when somebody said, "You got stink." So we were wet, but, we didn't know. And Steve and I had to go take showers and get, new flight suits, clean flight suits.
Yeah.
And we found out later what it was. And lucky for me, I got prostate cancer out of it, too.
Thanks, Agent Orange.
Thanks, Agent Orange. And there were other agents, brown and purple. And I don't know why orange got the biggest thing. That was sprayed with the Air Force. They were the ones that sprayed it. But we were the two that got in it that night.
Man, and you're how old? You're 20?
Then?
Yeah.
Yes, I was 20. About then.
Wow.
And
that's some heavy stuff, my friend.
It is. You don't know what to expect. I had heard of the Vietnam War, but I wasn't one that watched it on the news. I didn't pay attention. When you're 18, you got other things in your mind. And I was actually traveling around with this company I worked for out of San Antonio, and we were in several different states. And so I was kind of enjoying that for a while. And Uncle Sam thought I should do something for him. So you go and you don't know. You just don't know. And even when we found out after aircraft mechanics school, the 8 of us, it was more than that. 7 of them went on to be Cobra mechanics. The rest of us that were A through H, we knew we were going to Vietnam, so that we were supposed to get trained as a door gunner on the UH-1H and UH-1Ds. We got no such thing. Now, the guys ahead of me did. They went out, actually fired M60s. And all we did, we sat in there. There was a crew chief and the door gunner in the helicopter with M60s. They didn't even fire them. The pilot just done some low-level, quick, weird maneuvers, see if we freaked out, I guess. And that's the only training I had. We weren't taught how to shoot anything at all.
That's amazing.
And then even after I went on flight, we had no flight crew. I had no training. None. I hadn't fired a weapon at a shark or a rock or anything. And you have to know how high you are and your airspeed, because it's not like shooting doves and where you lead them or ducks. You got to shoot behind so that it catches up to them, because that helicopter's doing 80, 90 miles an hour or more. And so and no training, no experience at that at all. And the one reason that those aircraft back in 65, 66 did not have weapons, they tried it a little bit, and we didn't know where the enemy was. We could just as easily shoot the friendlies.
Right.
So they just said, no mounted weapons.
Okay, you were explaining to me before, and I want to hear this, that when you would drop into an area, you would radio them and they would release some smoke.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Yes. As we got near the area of the wounded, the pilots would tell them to pop smoke. And there were many colors of smoke, and it was a smoke grenade. They're harmless, except they're hot. But sometimes they would pop, let's say, a yellow smoke, and no other smoke. So that's your wounded man. And you go in and to that area and they load him up, or we would help load him up. And then there were times when you go out and tell them to pop smoke at an area, and the pilot we would tell the ground crew, we see purple smoke. And they would say, no, we popped orange or green. And all of a sudden, there's 3 greens, pop another smoke, till we got the one color that no one else had. That's how we identified our location from an enemy trying to trick us to coming in there. So that happened quite often.
And there was a story that somebody got ambushed by.
Yes.
Tell me that story.
Yes. I wasn't there, but the crew was called out for a mission. Guy spoke perfect English, and the crew sat down in that area, followed the smoke procedure correctly, everything. And once they landed, the enemy just opened up on them. It was just, he could speak that good of English that it fooled everybody. And they had our radio, probably got it from somebody that crashed, the pilot's little rescue helicopter. Radio. So, it was bad stuff. You never knew what. It was just every mission different,
You said you got used to that. In the back of your mind, was it always like, well, I guess you couldn't think about that much? I'm curious, what was going through your mind? I mean, you saw so much
about me getting hit.
Yeah, just the uncertainty of it all.
Yeah, you just don't know, because you make a lot of missions. I mean, there are a lot of missions and no one fires at you, Maybe they've already been forced to leave, Sometimes there are gunships out there, and they're not going to shoot at a gunship if they got any smarts at all.
Right.
And so you make a lot of them that's just like an ambulance run right here in town. You go in and you get the wounded, you load them. Sometimes Steve and I would go out and load the patient. Sometimes they would just be right there with him already. We'd land so close. Put him right on board. And you're in and out of there in seconds, if you can. If you have to get stuck there a while, then the probability of taking rounds raises quickly.
Right.
So no one wanted to stay there. And, you're setting duck. Just like when you are on a hoist mission, you're a setting duck, day or night. And matter of fact, at night, we had all the lights on, landing light, every light.
So you're an easy target.
You're an easy target. And if I'm standing there watching the tail rotor, somebody shoots you in the back, I mean, you just don't even think about that.
My mind thinks that if you're in there, it's so loud in the helicopter.
Very.
And there's air moving, right? There's a lot of chaos going on.
Yeah.
Just to even know you're being shot at, I'm assuming is a little tricky unless something, you know what I mean? It wouldn't be that obvious in the beginning, I wouldn't think.
No, you don't know what to expect until it happens.
Yeah.
One flight we had out of LZ Uplift, a soldier supposedly had a possible broken arm. They were called out for a possible broken arm at dusk, which is when the enemy really likes to prowl, at the break of dawn and at dusk, because they want the night cover. And we are flying over there, and the aircraft commander said, "I see tracers up front." Well, he didn't deviate from the pattern from the original heading, and I asked him on the radio, I keyed in, I said, "Did you change the heading?" "No." "How are our instruments? They all in the green?" "Yes." And I'm sitting with my medic. We were setting really in the wrong place. We were setting back to the pilot seats instead of way back in what we called the hellhole, which is had a little canvas seat to sit in. And we're sitting there and we're flying. I said, how high above the ground are we? And the co-pilot said, "Well, don't worry about it." I said, "Well, what's our airspeed?" "Oh, we're staying the same. Let us fly the airplane." Well, okay. Never had any of them talk to me like that, but I said, "Well, we're at same heading, suicide level, and suicide airspeed. We're 800 feet up. We're about to have something pretty exciting happen here."
Did you say that?
Yes. Well, I barely got out of my mouth. It opened up 3 positions in front of us. Tracers were everywhere. I leaned over, looked out the window, and it looked like that thing was hitting me right in the eyeball. Now, I dodged like you can like you can outrun a bullet, right? It's just a reflex, But we thought we were really shot at bad. But when we landed, they could find a hole in the aircraft.
Wow.
Not a hole. And, of course, we were all over the sky. I was trying to get to the position to fire my weapon. By the time I could get there, we're out of the kill zone. Then you might be shooting a friendly.
Friendly, yeah.
So you don't know.
Wow.
If
Was there a different attitude when you got back?
It was real attitude when we landed, found out the guy just had a possible broken arm and probably just wanted a helicopter ride to Quinyon.
Oh.
That happened more than once to people, to our crews, where the guys just really wanted a ride. I've went in to pick up wounded South Vietnamese soldiers, and we load the patient on, and you have to literally stomp their fingers off the helicopter to make everybody want it out. We're all going, they want to leave. So you literally had to stand out there, stomp their fingers on the skids. They would hang on.
Wow.
Not very often it happened, but it did happen. Not just to me.
Okay, tell me, what was the food like there? What was the food situation for you? What was your take on that?
I was never a fan of Army coffee or Army food, but you learn to eat it, because that's all you're going to get.
Was there any meals that you enjoyed that they made? Anything?
Not really. Yeah. I mean, we have, if you're in home base, you could get eggs and bacon, and I don't know if they had any pancakes or anything. I don't remember that. But nothing I wanted to eat. The coffee was so strong you could walk on it, and it was terrible. And out in the field, we had to eat, cake rations. You look on the date, 1945. That.
Was any of that edible or no?
Yeah, some of it was, and they even had, seems like they had I don't know if I'm getting that mixed up now with that or my tour in Iraq when I was a civilian, but they had the MREs over there.
Oh, that's probably newer, I think.
All the newer stuff, just like you're going mountain climbing, the hiking, pretty good stuff.
Yeah.
And the chili con carne was really good. But I don't remember anything. I mean, you ate it, but I don't remember anything good. Came with a pack of, I think, 3 or maybe 3 cigarettes in it and gum. You could trade that like crazy, but you can get by. That's it. You take cold showers or whatever temperature the water was. They used fuel bladders, which are big rubber bladders up on a little wooden tower, and come out of there free flow, and that's all the water you were going to get. Whatever's in there, that's the temperature you're going to get and the flow you're going to get. But it worked.
Where did you do R&R?
I didn't.
You didn't do it?
I could have went to Australia or Thailand, both tours, actually. I didn't go because I guess at that time, after I'd been there 6 months, that's when you could go. And I felt like I was leaving my medic behind. I mean, I just felt like those guys are going to have to go out there and do it. I don't really want to be on R&R. I didn't have a wife or anybody to go meet, and no, I wasn't interested in going to anywhere, really. I mean, looking back, I wish I'd have went to both places, but I didn't.
At the time, it was just like, this is...
At the time, I didn't worry about it.
Yeah.
I did the second tour. I had thought about going after my 6 months a little bit, but I didn't ever go.
Okay, so finish the first tour. What happened at the very end of the first tour, and then how did you end up in the second one?
Excuse me. My year ended, and I was assigned to Fort Rucker, Alabama, which was a unit that had just moved from Germany, and they had let anyone that had 5 months or less left on the tour, they let them out rather than reassign them there in Fort Rucker. So they were filling those slots with anybody. And they put me in charge of driving a 10-ton truck with a lowboy hauling I think it was a TD-21, 25 dozer on the back. And they're in the peanut festival that they have there in Dothan, Alabama. Some of the guys were in a parade, tore down every street sign around because those streets weren't made for something like that. So I don't know if it's the mayor, Chamber of Commerce, somebody told the company commander, said, don't leave the base. We didn't have driver's license. We didn't, nothing, I had zero training on that truck. No idea how to start the thing. Finally learned how to start it a little bit. Every once in a while, me and another guy would hook our these 10-ton trucks. And these things are huge. You have to have a winch to lower the spare tire. They're heavy. And we would back them up, hook our cables together, run out a ways, and then we would drag ourselves back together, just bored to death. I went in and told the company commander, I said, I don't have anything against you or your unit, but I got to get back in aviation. And he said, no, the Army only owes you 1 year. I said, well, how do I get out of here? He said, Korea or Vietnam, that's it. I said, well, no offense, but I'm going to take Vietnam. I've been there. I know what it's about. And I'm ready to go. He said, okay, sign this paper. I signed it. He said, well, why don't you go home for 7, 8, 10 days, whatever, because it's going to take some time to get these orders all changed. Okay. So I drove to Arkansas, and they called me. Said, your orders are ready to go. Well, I had met this young lady that I really liked, and I had asked her to marry me. And knowing her, well, I knew of her and her family. They used to live close to me in the same town, little town. And I asked her if she wanted to marry me. She said, yeah. She's a senior in high school. And her father said, well, when, now? I said, no, when I get back out of the Army and she's out of school. Oh, okay. So I ended up in 3 weeks going back to Vietnam.
How long were you home?
About a total of about 3 weeks.
Wow.
3 or 4.
And back me up just a little bit. When you got back to the States, what was that like? What was that like leaving Vietnam the first time? Was it a relief? Were you feeling like you're leaving your guys behind? What was going through your mind?
No, I was glad to be away from it. I didn't think about it anymore. I instantly, because when I got home, my dad said, hey, they got a brand new 69 Ford Mustang Mach 1 over at the Ford place. You want to go get it? And I said, yeah, I can pay for that. so I go get this brand new Mustang, drove it just 2-3 weeks and had to leave it. So, went back to Vietnam and
you had a Mustang and a girl and you went back to Vietnam.
I went back to Vietnam. I went ahead. I'd learned with this other pilot there, the test pilot in the 2nd Unit, the 240th Assault Helicopter Company.
Is that where they sent you? Where were you at in Vietnam?
It was different. When I got there, I expected to be in a holding tank like I was before, but no. As soon as I landed, this helicopter landed and said, Cunningham, you're going with us. Got on there and they took me to Bearcat Army Heliport, which is just out of Long Binh, where I was expected to be a door gunner on a Huey, flying these Thai soldiers out to wherever they were going to sit. And
did you want to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't care. I mean, yeah, I thought that was great. It'd be payback time, And but I think it was only a couple of weeks. The company commander. Well, but someone told me to go see him, and I did. And he said I need a technical inspector on the Hueys because the tech inspector for the Hueys was different from the gunships, the A and Bs. We were all Hueys, but the A and B models were gunships, rockets and mortars, all that stuff, miniguns. So I expected to just do the M60 on the regular Huey, and he said I need a TI because ours went home on R&R and didn't come back. So you're the boss. And so I became a tech inspector, and my job then was to check each day when the pilots flew. They would, if there was something wrong with the aircraft, any little thing, they would make a note of it, and we would review it, whether it was a red X, so you grounded the helicopter, or if it could be repaired quickly. And the aircraft mechanics they were called the kennel keepers for the groundhogs and greyhounds. And so they would repair the aircraft or service it, oil change, whatever. I would do a final inspection, and then myself and Ed Gunther, the test pilot, would go test fly them, hover them, whatever the requirement was. And he eventually taught me how to hover that thing really well.
Was that fun?
Oh, loved it. And then he taught me how to fly the thing. We'd go on parts runs, where we'd have to go trade tail rotor blades for trunnion bearings or whatever our company needed and some other company had plenty of and didn't need. We would make these flights. So eventually he taught me pretty much how to fly the thing, and I was doing pretty well at that. Not not efficient, but I had learned, all of my 270 degrees, north, south, east, west, all that stuff. I knew the headings, and I knew how to keep it on altitude and airspeed and right side up. And so I came in one day, was hovering up, and I usually Ed would usually take over the aircraft at that point. He said, I just hovered on up to the revetment. So I did. I was hovering on up the little taxiway, I guess you'd call it. And there come the aircraft. He was called Mad Dog 6. It's all the company commanders is a 6. And here come the company. He was Major Lacey, company commander. And he's hovering, and then he kind of came at me a little bit. And I felt the prop wash, and Ed said, don't panic, just keep hovering. Just keep hovering right here. Stay with you. And the guy came a little closer. I got feeling a lot of prop wash, but I was dealt with it just fine. And he went on about his business. I don't know where he went. And I went and Ed parked it in the revetment because I didn't want to even think of trying that. But about 2 hours later, guy came and got me, what they call a runner, came and got me and wanted me to go to see Major Lacey. I didn't know if I was in trouble or what. I thought I might be in trouble because I did have my flat gloves at that point laying on the console. And he just said, I watched you hover. You could probably hover as good as half of my pilots, so Army will give you 10,000 tax-free dollars, and I can have you in Texas in 24 hours. And I should have asked 2 more questions because I took basic training at Fort Bliss. I should have said, you mean I have to go back to Fort Bliss? Because I wasn't going to do that. If he had said, no, you're going straight to Fort Walters to flight school, that would have helped. That would have helped my decision. And what was the other one? I don't know. Some other little thing. That's all I need to ask him. And I would have done it. 10,000 tax-free in those days, 1970. And I was supposed to be in there until January 71 to finish my 3 years. But I said, let me think about it. And then it seemed like it was no time. And I was asleep, actually, and a guy came and woke me up and said my mother had to have emergency surgery and you need to go down to the Red Cross. I didn't know where the Red Cross was, but he told me how to get there, so I walked and down there, and they said, your mom's got to have emergency surgery and they need you home. It's really a bad situation. I said, okay, I got to go as fast as I can. And when I said, okay, well, will I come back here? I've got like 3.5 months left. He said, oh, no, let me change your orders. You're going home on emergency leave and ETS, out of service. So they sent me to Seattle. Eventually got to Seattle and then I went to San Francisco. That was the worst. That's where we had all the protesters.
Oh, tell me about that.
And the drill sergeants come on board the buses. I think it was Travis Air Force Base. I don't know. And we landed and they come on board and they said, guys, you got a lot of protesters out here. They're going to yell at you, cuss at you, throw stuff. You can't touch them. You can't say a word. You stay on the sidewalk and walk straight into this building. And there was several of these MPs, military police, lining up between us and the protesters was close as me and you. And sidewalk's 3 foot, And so we're walking down through there. They're cussing, spitting, throwing trash.
How far did you have to walk? How far would you walk?
Probably 100 feet, something like that. and before we could get into this building. And I think if I remember right, I still had on either, I believe, a flight suit or just jungle fatigues. I can't remember at the time. But I wasn't allowed to go like that. And they said, you need to stay here. We will get you out of the Army in the morning after the ceremony, and you'll wear a dress suit, your dress class A's. And I said, no, I got to get home on emergency leave. I got to catch a plane right now. I said, well, I don't know where you're going to go. They said, well, they told me I could go to Little Rock Air Force Base, and they would let me out there, pay me my final pay. So I get in this restroom, and this guy said, I got to get out of here. And the guy says, hey, I got a shirt you can have. So I'm wearing these other guys' clothes, and this shirt would fit two of me. But they let me on the plane, out of there and on the plane, and I got to Little Rock, and my brother picked me up and went there, and I didn't recognize my mother at all. She was just almost gone. And I told the surgeon, the doctor, I said, you cut her open now, right now, the next 5 minutes. I want her in surgery. Well, what are we going to do? I don't know. Do an exploratory surgery. Something's wrong. And they did, and they found out that she had had an appendix attack. It had ruptured, so the pain went away. Then she's dying because she's filled up with gangrene. Poison. They barely saved her life, but they did. And I ended up having to go to Fort Polk, Louisiana, because they wouldn't let me get out at the Air Force.
Just to get released?
Yeah. Couldn't be released. So I had to drive all the way to Fort Rucker, Alabama. I go down there, and I go in, and they're supposed to give me all new uniforms, everything. I said, I'm getting out in 5 days. One of the guys overheard this. He come over there and he said, you're getting out in 5 days? He recognized my accent, and he's in Fort Rucker, Louisiana, Fort Polk. And he said, where are you from? I said, I'm from Plainview, Arkansas. He said, do you know Fred Blackstock? He's the barber there. I said, yeah, he's cut my hair every time until I went into the Army. And he said, you're getting out in 5 days. He said, you don't need uniforms. Just tell them you don't have any. Just wear your civvies. If they have any questions, tell them call Mr. Jackson. Now, I'll never forget his name. First formation, here I am out there in civvies, and everybody else is, because you're now in a unit where a lot of these guys are being kicked out of the Army because they're undesirable, whatever happened.
Yeah.
And so this sergeant said, why aren't you wearing fatigues? I said, I'm getting out in 5 days. Yep. Go down to and get your clothes. No. I said, Mr. Jackson down there told me to just wear these. He said, everybody fall out except Cunningham. And they had to go cut grass, pull weeds. I don't know what they have to do all day. But anyway, he called me over there and he says, why does Mr. Jackson not want to give you this fatigues? I said, because I'm getting out in 5 days and it's a waste of government money. And this guy said, all right, I tell you what, you show up at the end of the day, let me know you didn't go AWOL, and that's it. I don't want to see you.
Don't come out to formation.
Don't come out to formation. So I hung around 5 days, and around there the last day, come out, and went over and picked up my pay and got in the car and back home.
You still have the Mustang?
I still had it. I don't have it now because I got mad at this certain person because when I came home, I immediately started dating her again. And I got mad at her. Went over this hill too fast and wrecked my car, totaled my Mustang. Went and bought a 429 Cobra and ended up marrying her. I guess it was the Army training. I don't know. But anyway, went on about life.
Was it a relief coming home?
Yes. At the time, big relief. When I wrecked my car, I was so mad.
How long have you been home when you wrecked the car?
2 or 3 weeks.
Also,
Yeah.
yeah.
Drinking, driving. But the real reason was over the mountain, and there was it was real foggy and the road was slick, and I started slipping. I overcorrected and couldn't catch up.
Yeah.
And it's like a big mountain. When I stopped, I was against a pine tree and couldn't get out that way, but that door was gone. So I climbed out that way.
You're lucky you walked out of that car.
Just had glass in my nose. I had to go to the hospital and get dug out. But very lucky because I wasn't seat belted in.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Went on with life.
And then you joined. You've led an interesting life because you went on to work for.
Yeah, I went to work for Bechtel.
Bechtel, yeah.
Yeah, I worked on at least 3 or 4 nuclear power plants, construction of 2 of them, right up to the point of operation. And then I went to Montana, built coal-fired power plants. We ended up building 5 in the same town.
Wow.
Little town called Coal Strip. And then to Bakersfield to build a coal-fired plant here.
Is that how you ended up living here permanently?
Yes, in a way, because when we lived, I had been transferred to Las Vegas to work on McCarran International Airport. Let me think. But I came here, built this, and that's when I got my divorce. She wanted to divorce me. So my daughter and I went back to Montana to build that 5th plant. Then I got transferred down to McCarran International to build a new runway, 24. And so my daughter, they didn't have the schools at the time, and so my daughter came here to live with her mother and her boyfriend. And my daughter didn't like him, so she rushed her schooling, graduated early, her and one young Asian boy. And she had a full ride at Holy Names in the Bay Area in math and science, or chemistry, I guess it was, in math. And so she went up there and was 2 years at Holy Names and 2 years at St. Mary's and graduated from St. Mary's. And then ended up marrying a guy there. And, gosh, I don't remember. I think I flew home from the Philippines to go to her wedding. Because I was going everywhere.
You were doing work all around the world, weren't you?
Yeah, I worked in at least 2 places in New York and one in Boston and Washington. I lived on Fidalgo Island in Washington State. Lived up there about 3 years. That's when me and my 13-year-old daughter went bungee jumping in Nanaimo, Canada, over the Nanaimo River. And because she's about as adventurous as I am. And then I went to Indonesia to Jakarta, and then to Florida, Indiantown, Florida. Lived in Stuart, Florida. Great place in the summer. Winter, it's too crowded. But anyway, went from there to, where did I go? Philippines. Went to Philippines. Lived in a very, very remote area. In 3 years, building a coal-fired power plant where we had to have armed guards all around, 2 10-foot high security fences, barbed wire fences with the dog run in between. And it was protected by the Philippine Marines. And that was a good assignment. Just rough place, hard to deal with, but beautiful place to work, right on the Philippine Sea. Good people. And then I went to, I went to Albania. I went to Albania to Albania and Kosovo, then to Taipei, Taiwan.
Crazy.
Then to Kuwait, where I was building armored cars for the Department of Defense. Worked some of that in Israel and some down in Auburn, Alabama, and went into Iraq for about 6 months. And we was rebuilding a large 17 pumping stations, I think it was, what they call the Sweetwater Canal, right at the Garden of Eden. And pretty interesting place. One time it got a little dangerous, so I had to take a ride in the British helicopters. They flew me up to the other end, to the far end, so I could check on this project going up there. Come back and went to Norway. Went to Norway for 6 months.
And you really liked Norway, didn't you?
I really liked Norway. People are wonderful, beautiful, clean country. And, went up to the Arctic Circle, went to all the way across Sweden and over there and back. And it was pretty good. Yeah.
You didn't really get hit with how you were affected by Vietnam till later, did you?
Right.
It
triggered me a little bit in Albania. And we were on the Kosovo border, and the B-2 dropped one of the missiles. Whoosh, supersonic went by, scared the fire out of me. I don't like loud, sudden noises, and just can't get used to that. And then later, there was a bad accident in Oklahoma. This elderly lady got on Interstate 40 going the wrong direction and ran into 6 motorcycles, Harley Davidsons with the little trailers. So I stopped, grabbed my first aid kit, and ran across the median over there. And it just looked like an explosion in front. I didn't know what I was seeing, till I got over there. And first guy I went to was deceased. He had a windshield head on. And the lady said she had just cut. She said, "Are you hurt?" I said, "Are you hurt?" She said, "Yeah." "Is anybody else hurt?" I said, "Yeah, everybody's hurt." And I turned and went over there, and one guy was saying, "How's my dad? How's my dad?" And he didn't have a leg from the knee down. And I said, "Everybody's just scratched up. Don't worry about it. There's a lot of bruises and abrasions." Because it was hot. I didn't want him going into shock. More people, of course, coming to help by then. One, thank goodness, was a registered nurse. And so we start trying to triage these people. And there was a lady that was riding behind her husband, had lost her leg from the knee down and an arm. It was really bad. I mean, everybody was really bad shape. And they just all run over each other, run over the guardrail, run over the car. And that really kicked it back in again. Then working here in Bakersfield, going to work, and a car, I don't know what caused the wreck, but he wrecked, and half his body's hanging out the door, and all of it just keeps coming back, and the smell of blood never goes away. The noise from the engines, the turbine engines, don't go away. As a crew chief, you have to be there at the engine with a fire extinguisher when the aircraft commander fires it up to make sure there's not a fire in the engine compartment. And you get all that heat, 700 degrees or 900 degrees coming out of that exhaust. It's hot. You got a helmet on, but that JP4 coming out, that smell and that sound, and it don't go away. I can hear a Huey for miles and miles, and I know it's a Huey. Very recognizable sound. Now they have them with 2 engines.
When all this started happening, would that just trigger emotions? And
yeah, went into, I think it was 208 or somewhere in there. He really had some a bad experience, and the anxiety hit me first. Then the depression really got hold of me. And I was dating a very nice young lady for a couple of years. We went to Colorado to ride, and I had a pain in my side. I had to go to the hospital. I fell off the Harley. I mean, I parked that Harley as fast as I could. I just hit the ground. And she called 911, and I had perforation in my lower bowel. I had to have a bowel resection. And in the hospital, everything just comes back at you when you don't think there's any possibility of it, And it just seemed to get worse. So I told her I didn't think it was going to work. I wasn't ready for marriage, and I just was done with that game. And she was a good person. Maybe I messed up, but, life goes on.
So how did you deal with it? How are you dealing with it?
I hate to tell part of this story, but I had to go to the hospital. I really, really wanted to kill someone. I didn't want to kill a good person. I really wanted to find a bad person and kill him. I don't know why.
Wow.
It was bad. And that doctor called for help because she knew I was in real trouble. And I was uncontrollable at the time. They took me back to a place. Several guys came and got me, immediately pulled my belt off of me, brought me back to another bed and a cubicle back there and a little deal with a curtain, and took my shoestrings out. So I'm not going to hang myself. I want to kill somebody. Not me. I want to kill somebody else. I want to kill somebody that's a bad person. And so then they sent me to this psychiatrist for some reason. And he diagnosed me with bad PTSD and put me on medication, and been on several different ones over the years so that I won't do something stupid. And I do have.
Did that help?
Eventually, going through lots of doctors, lots of medications till you get on the right stuff, right doctor.
Yeah.
Because I had terrible anger issues. Road rage was a real problem. I'd just soon run them off the road. Hate left lane drivers.
Yeah.
Just little things. eventually I got the right doctors and the right medication and enough of it. And I still have to modify it from time to time.
Yeah.
But I'm out of that stage where,
Yeah, that's gone. That passed.
I don't want to hurt anyone. Well, it took years.
Yeah.
It took years. I still see a psychiatrist, still monitors my medication. See a lot of doctors, actually. And that's how I manage life now. Is the politics drive me crazy. I can't hardly watch.
Best to ignore all that.
Yeah, I can't
honestly.
I can't watch TV.
No, neither can I.
If I know there's something about Nancy Guthrie's deal going on, I could watch that, but I don't want to watch politicians.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I didn't want to. I didn't vote.
Yeah,
until about 8 years ago, something.
That's a lot. Part of interviewing people, there's a real cost to war.
Yeah.
Sending guys over, including now, I've talked to, guys that have been in Afghanistan. So there's a real cost. And I think people just don't know the cost of it,
The cost to their families.
Yeah. That 1 year, that 2 year of your life.
Yeah.
When you were such a young kid have reverberated, right? Through all your relationships.
Yes. It
your whole life.
Every decision.
Yeah.
And I had some responsibilities on some projects that was very demanding. And I think that helped me. I was on the project there in Anacortes, Washington. I had so much responsibility and people that I did not want hurt, all the crafts people.
Yeah.
You want them to go home just like they came to work every day. And safety was a real thing with our company and still is. And I think that helped me a lot when I went through that, And when I got away from that a little, some jobs I did not have that, things started bothering me again.
Yeah, yeah.
And so there's a real cost to the families. They have no idea what some of the wives go through.
Yeah.
As the children, Some poor little kids that, they barely, some didn't know their parents. Didn't know it at all. Now, when I was in Vietnam, we didn't have very many women in the military. The ones we had were mostly registered nurses. They had already went to college, and they were registered nurses. Very good people. All of them have good hearts when you do that, And it's like all the DustOff people. I didn't know my company commanders. I didn't know anything about them. I didn't even want them to know my name.
Yeah.
And after we were all out and started having DustOff reunions, and my company commanders, 2 of them, were there until they passed away, and we're all on first name basis. Everybody. I don't care what the rank was.
Yeah, the rank's meaningless at this point.
No, we were all just friends. And that's when you find out how good of people you are actually working with and their wives.
Yeah.
Very good people, every one of them.
Yeah.
Everyone, no exceptions.
Yeah.
Very best of the best people you could put on earth.
Now looking back, what's your take on the whole thing? Your experience over there?
On Vietnam?
Yeah.
On the war?
No, just your experience.
I hate that it became so political that our leaders at the time didn't listen to the military like our president does now.
Yeah.
He listens to all of his advisors, makes a good decision based on what they tell him. We haven't had that. And we didn't have it over there. Westmoreland even buckled, And
when you were there, you didn't really know the politics of the war, really, right? It was just day to day.
Day to day.
You were saving guys, and that was it.
We had no idea what was they were all doing.
Yeah.
You watch these shows now and you go back in history and you see why did they make that decision?
Yeah.
Just like when Johnson said, we're going to pull back, but we're going to support the South Vietnamese. That wasn't going to ever happen.
Yeah.
Never send another soul back.
Yeah.
Not one plane. And they just kept marching through and killing out some very good people that would have gave their lives for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of good Vietnamese people. I haven't been back. One of my friends went back. He's deceased now, but Gary Jostat was one of my medics, and he went back. They wouldn't let him go to Lane Army heliport or airfield for some reason. There's something there because I've seen it on Google Earth, but I don't know what's there.
That's interesting.
And but he said they took him through the tunnels. Everybody was just as friendly as they could be.
That's what I've heard over there.
That's because they want your money now, And but yeah, a lot of people, young people, even going there and saving up a bundle of money because they're getting paid like stateside money, living over there for $350 a month.
Yeah, yeah.
But I don't regret it. I would do it again in a heartbeat. And everybody I know in DustOff that I've talked to anyway said, yeah, sign me up. We'd do it again.
It's such an amazing thing what you guys did. So selfless in a weird way.
It is. And my second tour, there was even a guy that was 1 year behind me in school, and all through school. He showed up in my same company in the 240th Assault. And don't even communicate with him ever. No, the only person I communicate with from the 240th, all I know now is Ed Gunther in Alaska, and I'm going up to see him, the guy that taught me to hover, and I'm going to go see him this summer. But DustOff guys, we're in contact all the time, texting, emails, calling. We have two from our very close group. One, a very good friend of mine, Tommy Bailey, who is in really bad shape, and another guy that he's even worse. I don't know if we'll have them at the end of the year or not.
Yeah.
So we went from having 26, 28 people at a reunion, and that's not all of the 498. Some of those have their own reunion somewhere. Yeah. But this group got together once, and then we stayed together all the time. We go to Branson every year because it's the most patriotic city there is, and treat you like amazing.
Yeah.
Just amazing. And just a good people in a good area, a lot of fun, a lot of entertainment, good restaurants. And we stay in touch, but we're down to 5 or 6 of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, we lose people every minute. We started out, DustOff had, over the 10-year period, 3,400 crew members that were eligible for this Congressional Gold Medal we were awarded. We're down to less than 700 people left.
Yeah.
So I don't know how many will be left in September and October. September.
Is that when you meet?
We meet in September in Oklahoma City for the official award citation or whatever.
Wow. Well, you have lived an interesting life, Kerry.
It's been a hoot. Yeah, some of my trips were just almost as dangerous after I got out of the Army.
Yeah. You just went out of the frying pan and into the fire.
Yeah, one in Albania was very scary, and one in the Philippines two in the Philippines were very scary. Yeah.
Well,
still made it.
Yeah. You're doing good, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Well, you're welcome.
I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
That's really great.
Well, I'm glad you're doing things like this because most people aren't going to hear the stories, They will, my daughter won't even watch some of the CDs that I have of us. Someday maybe she will. Maybe someday her and the grandkids will watch your stuff that you're doing.
Well, people ought to know.
Yeah.
And you guys all have stories. And
well, every one of us certainly appreciate you guys doing this.
Yeah.
You know, we do.
Well, what you guys were doing is heroic. I told that to Jerry, just was like, man, the fact that you guys were in your early 20s doing that, just day in and day out, that's crazy.
Jerry Ewan, he is an amazing guy.
He's an amazing guy.
He is a great guy.
He's a good guy.
He really is. I think the world of him. Yeah.
Thank you, brother.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.